highlights from the first of 3 races of the R&G British Talent Cup this weekend here at Oulton Park. Got off with a damp but drying circuit. It was Filip Sorowiak who started on pole position. However, Jack Dunnerby got into a lead that would not be assailed before the end of this race. We saw Ethan Sparks and Filip Sorowiak fighting for second place throughout it as Dunnerby fled off into the distance, as I said, never to be seen again. This was a move for Sorowiak, putting him one over on his championship rival Ethan Sparks. The gap going into this weekend was just 2 points between them. Their nearest championship rival to that was Ryan Frost, the last of the riders mathematically in with a shout of winning in the title this weekend. His gap was 26 points, but his race didn't go quite the way that he was expecting. Not able to fight for the podium positions and eventually would finish just inside the top 5. Here goes Ethan Sparks with a big move to the inside of Filip Sorowiak as Jack Dunnerby came through to take victory ahead of Ethan Sparks and Sorowiak in 3rd position. Well, welcome along to Oulton Park here for the second of 3 races of the R&G British Talent Cup. Thankfully, the rain looks to have stayed away after it was on and off like a fiddler's elbow over the last sort of hour and a half or so here, especially for the first BSB race of the weekend. Anyway, the upshot is we've now got a dry circuit for the first time this weekend. Ryan Frost is on the outside of that second row of the grid. Josh Raymond Jr. alongside his Fibertech Honda teammate. And then Harrison McKay, who put in a stonking performance in the race to get 4th position away from Ryan Frost on the final lap. Ethan Sparks is on the outside of the front row of the grid for the Kavara Project RS Racing team, and then championship hopeful Filip Sorowiak alongside in 2nd position. But pole is occupied by Jack Dunnerby. He set the quickest time in the first race earlier on this afternoon, and the upshot is that he now will head the field down towards that first corner. Now, as the riders get ready to go for racing, bit of housekeeping to do. It's been declared a dry race for this, which is great news there. We've also got Clayton Edmonds on the grid as well. He actually crashed on the sighting lap earlier on here ahead of race 1, but also slightly shorter race distance of 10 laps compared to what was supposed to be 12 as well. Riders about to set off on the warm-up lap here for race 2 of the R&G British Talent Cup at Oulton Park. It'll be Jack Dunnerby who starts this one on pole position. However, Danny Buchan, this is sort of the first real dry track time the riders have had pretty much all weekend. Yeah, and it always throws up a weird one, Tom, because you've got obviously guys who are faster in the wet conditions starting further up the front. I mean, you know, Jack Dunnerby, Sorowiak, Ethan Sparks, those guys, Ryan Frost, they've all been pretty quick anyway, you know, wet or dry this year. So it's not too dissimilar in that sense, but there is a few other wild cards thrown in there. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. No doubt about it. Well, let's have a look at the standings. Ethan Sparks had a 2-point lead over Filip Sorowiak prior to the start of this weekend. It's now up to 6 points after he got the better of Sorowiak by just a tenth of a second in race 1. Ryan Frost finished 5th on the road in race 1, but his gap now is increased up to 35 points with a possible 50 on offer for the remainder of this weekend. And Jack Dunnerby has also managed to get ahead of Harrison McKay for 4th in the standings, courtesy of 2 successive wins in the last 2 races. But here is the grid for race 2. Jack Dunnerby on pole position with Sorowiak and Sparks alongside on the front row. McKay, Josh Raymond Jr. and Ryan Frost are on row 2 with Jack Burrows, George Bowes and Mason Foster on the 3rd row of the grid. Then Willis, Ben Jalif and Sam Munson on row 4 with Rowan, Scott McPhee and Mullen alongside on row 5. Then Williams, Devine and Goodman on row 6. Bishop, Huntingford and Rhodes, Max Rhodes that is, on row 7. Dan Stevenson, Ben Hardwick and Lily Rhodes on row 8. And Lucy Curtis, Charlie Cunningham, both of those 2 riders making their debuts here this weekend, line up alongside Clayton Edmonds, who of course, as we know, did not start race 1, subsequently means he will start race 2 here from the very back of the grid. Well, riders making their way through, you can see the leaves on the circuit, but also you can see the fact that it's covered in quite a fair bit of shade now. The sun is sort of creeping through the clouds in a few areas, but of course it's quite late in the day now here as well, so it's going to be interesting to see that if any of those damp patches have remained over the course of this lap. Yeah, and the damp patches will be a little bit naughty as well, Tom. They're going to have to keep an eye out for them, because with the slick tyres, you know, it can catch you off guard, especially the first few laps when you're bunched up and you're not really, you know, you're not really got an idea of who's around you. So that's definitely one to look out for. But yeah, let's see. Filip Sorowiak needs to keep Ethan Sparks behind him if he wants to get some points on him. And subsequently, Ryan Frost also needs to have a strong race as well, because he lines up on the second row of the grid, but also is now trailing by 35 points in the the championship. So green flag is about to be waved at the back. It is all eyes on the lights for 10 laps of action, ready to go for the R&G British Talent Cup. Race 2 here at Oulton Park. Eyes on the lights then, wait for the revs to rise. Lights out, good start from Soroviak. Nice one also from Dunnerby off pole position though. He gets the initial launch down towards the first corner. What can Sparks do from the outside of row 1? And he goes into second place ahead of Soroviak. Ryan Frost up to 4th place there as well, ahead of his teammate Josh Raymond Jr. and McKay sort of mired on the outside of the first corner, but down in towards Cascades for the first time. Dunnerby leads, Sparks in second, and then into 3rd place is Soroviak ahead of Ryan Frost. So a nice clean start for the title contenders, crucially, at the sharp end of this race. Yeah,
Dunnerby just feeling confident in it. Sparks has just made a move up the inside into Island Bend, and Dunnerby shut the door in there.
Yeah, it's a fast place to go through there. Even on these smaller CC machines, it's opened the door here for Soroviak to go through, possibly for second, but it gives him the sort of wider outside line into Shell Oils, and though you've got a lot of camber in that corner, can't quite use the extra speed that he was able to carry through Island Bend. But coming through into the Britain chicane we go for the first time, and Sparks doing a phenomenal job of just holding off the pressure of Philip Soroviak. Now, we've seen great pace from Jack Dunnerby in the mixed conditions here this weekend, Danny, and also last time out at Aston. His dry weather pace, though, hasn't been on quite the same level, so the question remains, is he going to have what it takes to fight at the sharp end in this one?
Yeah, I think, do you know what, he's obviously got the advantage that there hasn't been too much dry track time this weekend, so there's that, you know, to take into consideration. Also, another advantage is starting at the front. You know, he started right on the front row, and when you get away with the leaders, you know, like he's now there, he's leading the race, you know, you just follow what everyone else is doing, and it usually drags you away. So obviously we're seeing the front 4 here, you know, slight gap there, a couple of attempts, but obviously nothing major. But I think that maybe Dunnerby can just get his claws out, dig into this group, and maybe get pulled away.
Down towards the final corner of Lodge we go. Look at Ryan Frost. That's a big send to the inside then. Sits up Ethan Sparks, who's demoted back down. Sorry, I beg your pardon. That's Jack Dunnerby, actually, who's lost the lead and dropped back down to 4th position. So he's now down into P4, possibly looking for P3 into turn 1, but can't quite make it stick. So the end of lap 1, it's now Sparks that leads from Soroviak. Frost through into 3rd. So the top 3 in this race, now the top 3 in the championship, in that order as well.
Yeah, Mason Foster as well has got a great start. He's into 6th place there. You know, they've got 1.2 seconds from 6th place to 7th, so this top 6 have really got their head down early on to try and get away.
Clayton Edmonds also made a good start right at the back of the field. He was now up into 14th at the end of lap 1 on board the City Lifting RS racing machine. 4 bikes being run out of that outfit this season, and you wonder whether Clayton Edmonds, who's had some strong pace this season, can get up towards the sharp end of the field and maybe help out his RS racing teammates. Maybe not necessarily in terms of any team tactics, but you know, if he can occupy some podium positions or some top 5 positions, that might just help maybe their cause at the sharp end of this one. Out of the Britain chicane we go, and up, or down I should say, in towards the Hislop chicane. And let's see whether Ryan Frost can do anything. Had an interesting first race, because we've seen some good performances from him in the wet weather so far this season, but just didn't seem to have quite the same level of feel as some of the other riders.
Yeah, you know, he had a crash obviously in qualifying, and that knocks the confidence a little bit. And then obviously, you know, the 2 races, when I looked at the schedule, the 2 races, not a lot of time in between, so he could have crashed and smashed himself up and put himself out for this race. So I do get it, a little bit cautious, but yeah, you have to be able to ride all conditions, and he's certainly come out the blocks here ready to fight, and he wants to, yeah, overscore some points on Soroviak and Sparks.
And look at this then, Ryan Frost looks to the inside of Soroviak, takes the advantage, takes the initiative, and goes through and into second. Can he hold the line out the final corner? Just about. Gets it up all okay. Now we have the slipstream as well, being punched in the hole in the air in front of him, of Ethan Sparks as well. This is absolutely crucial for Ryan Frost's championship challenge. Needs to outscore Sparks by 11 points and Soroviak by 5 points in order to stay within championship contention here this afternoon. You can see, if it stands as it is now, it wouldn't be enough for him finishing P2 with Sparks in the lead and Soroviak in 3rd. So plenty of time for this race and the complexion of it to change, but let's see what Sparks can do, and crucially what happens to his nearest, to Frost, and what happens to his nearest championship rivals.
Yeah, and who's out the front doing a good job, again, handling the pressure, withstanding the pressure, hitting his marks. You know, he's doing a good race already, and yeah, seeing him from the start of the season to now, obviously he's, you know, the experience he's gaining, he's doing a fantastic job as Ethan Sparks.
Yeah, debut season in the R&G British Talent Cup, to remind you as well, for Ethan Sparks. Been a rider that's been very highly rated in years gone by. He's the FIA Mini GP Austria 190 champion in 2024, also won the 160 championship in the same year. He's been racing in the Spanish Moto 4 championship and won in that, and he's also racing the Fab Racing Championship, where a lot of these riders would have begun their riding careers, you know, some maybe 10 or so years ago perhaps even. And yeah, he's, as we say, held in very high esteem. And one wonders, you know, let's say the title does go his way in particular this weekend, where is it going to go for him for next year? Could we see him in Red Bull Rookies maybe the European Talent Cup? The possibilities, it really does open a lot of doors. Yeah,
I'd love to see him. You know, these are the future of British motorcycle racing, and hopefully, you know, the road to MotoGP is obviously the goal, and hopefully they can get there. You know, it's going to take a lot of hard work and from everyone, but he's certainly got the talent to get himself there.
Mason Foster making some moves in the background there on Jack Dunnerby. That's a battle for 5th position. Across the timing line we go though, and still Sparks holds the advantage at the moment. Now, of course, Sparks, we know he's a very fast rider, and we know also that Frost is as well. But you know, Frost on board that Fibertech Honda, he's got no allies around him as such. You know, his nearest teammate is Josh Raymond Jr., who's down in 9th position at the moment. Do you think that's going to be put him at a bit of a disadvantage?
I don't think so, Tom. I think he's just going to get out there. You know, I think all these guys are riding for themselves at the minute. I don't think there's any team tactics coming into it. You know, I'd certainly like to say that the RS racing guys will probably just be like, you know, go and race, just go and race each other. As long as you race fair and not uncontrollably or out of control, sorry, then, you know, it is the best man will win.
Yeah, Ryan Frost. By the way, you might be wondering why he's got a different livery on that bike compared to the normal Fibertech Honda. As you can see, it's a black livery there, and he actually ended up having a big old crash in qualifying. So I think they dug some spare bodywork out as a result of that one, and that's why the bike looks a little bit different to how it has done throughout the majority of this season. Anyway, down in towards the Hislop chicane we go. What about Soroviak here? We saw him being patient, biding his time. He's one of the more experienced riders in the field here, Danny, isn't he? And we saw that experience coming to really good use in that first race.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that he's just sat there. I mean, I'm not convinced he's stressed where he's sat. You know, I think Filip Soroviak's calm. He's a thinker. He'll be patient, you know, and he knows what he needs to do to win the race. As we said, he's very experienced, so he'll be checking out what the guys in front are doing, you know, how they're doing it. Ethan Sparks has the raw talent to just get himself out there and be consistently running at the front, and he just doesn't make any mistakes. We're going into the last turn there, and it's yeah, that Soroviak getting a good drive off there. So it's Frost, look.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, how it sort of ebbs and flows over the course of this lap. These being smaller bikes as well, there are overtaking opportunities that you may not otherwise get on the bigger capacity machines. And now Soroviak, you're starting to see that bike move around a little bit more, aren't you? We're about the halfway stage of this race, and unlike what we have seen, especially with the wet and drying circuit that we had in that first race, Danny, obviously these guys are all now on the slick tyres, but of course they don't have any experience on the slick tyres here, because they've also not raced at this circuit this season. Though the British Superbike Championship was here earlier on in the year, the R&G British Talent Cup wasn't part of the support programme on that weekend, so this is their first dry track time at this racetrack all year. So it's a proper step into the unknown as Frost goes to the inside of Sparks and takes the lead away down at Shell Oils.
Lovely, well, that's a lovely pass. That all comes from carrying that entry speed into Island Bend there just before Shell Oils, getting yourself positioned up the inside and making it stick.
Yeah, coming down then in towards the chicane we go, over the hilltop and down in towards the Hizzies chicane. So let's see whether Sparks can retaliate here on Ryan Frost. You see the thank you mum message on the side there of Ryan Frost's bike as Sparks goes through as well and takes the lead back from Ryan Frost. This is a phenomenal little battle that's really building into something quite nice. But the good thing is here as well, Danny, they've got, what, 2 seconds over Mason Foster behind, so they can afford to just sort of enjoy themselves a little bit here, not worry too much about any immediate pressure from those not fighting in that championship battle.
No, they're just doing a good job. They're not upsetting each other, they're not you know, ruining each other's lines. They're just literally putting it together and you know, getting away from. They're going to fight for this podium.
Coming down in towards Lodge Corner we go. Harrison McKay having a look there on Mason Foster in that battle for 4th position as well. George Bowes having a good run of things down in 9th position, and likewise Scott McPhee there inside the top 10 as well. And also, quick shout out to Ben Jalif on board the number 42. He's inside the top 10, sitting in 7th place, and that would be his best result of the season so far. His best previous to this was an 8th place when the Talent Cup was at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, supporting the MotoGP event earlier on this season. So nice ride there so far for the number 42, the rider from Dorset, Ben Jalif. Meanwhile, at the sharp end, through into Island Bend we go, and now Soroviak having a look to the inside there of Ryan Frost. Nothing doing, but it just sends Frost that little bit wider going in towards Shell Oils.
Yeah, Ryan Frost seems to be a little bit brave. Oh God, talking about wide, even Sparks out to the Tarpoli there. Yeah, he's going to come back there. But that line into there for Ryan Frost, it's one of those as well where it does hinder your entry into Shell, and that obviously affects the lap time. So sometimes being late on the brakes, it just doesn't work for the lap time. And yeah, that's what we saw there.
Yeah, so coming down towards the chicane we go. Now we're seeing Sparks coming to pressure here from Ryan Frost. He fancies another challenge for the race lead. Can he get it stopped in time? He can. Front end chattering away there, but Frosty now back in front, and got the two RS Racing teammates right behind, and a little bit wide onto the curb there for Ryan Frost. Well, you can start to see he's beginning to push that bike a little bit more. It's starting to make a few more shapes than it was a few laps ago. Yeah,
he's got nothing to lose really. There's 40 points obviously with the championship lead, and I think that might change now actually. Now the positions have changed, but
yeah,
what I'm saying is he's got to do he's got a miracle to try and win this championship. So when you're in that position, sometimes you just ride a little bit more freely, less pressure, and that's what we see it now. And he's doing a really good job.
Yeah, just to remind you, to stay in championship contention, 35 points of deficit at the moment here for Ryan Frost. Needs to outscore Sparks by 11 points and Soroviak by 5 points here. So he would at the very least need that order to reverse here with Sparky and Soroviak to give him half a chance of doing that. But it's going to be a bit of a tall order, such as the gap that they've got to them behind. And you can see there at the moment it wouldn't be quite enough for him as Soroviak lunges to the inside of Sparks for second place down at Cascade. Gets it done quite nicely, carries the momentum, carries that corner speed through there wonderfully, and now sets his sights on the race lead against Ryan Frost.
As you come into Cascade here, you drop down the hill through the right-hander, and you just have to pick the bike up and just aim straight for the corner. But at that point as well, the track is dropping right away, so it's a really difficult overtake to make, and he made it look really easy. Yeah,
real mixture of lines going on there through Island Bend as well. Oh no, that's a technical problem there, unfortunately, for Jensen Bishop, who is in the gravel trap. Bike's up and okay, he's up and okay, but something's gone wrong with it, and either way, there'll be a yellow flag out for at least a brief time period down at that corner whilst they get that bike recovered. Down in towards his as we go, meanwhile though, Frosty it is that still leads. Keep an eye out for Mason Foster as well. Last time around he was a 1:49.6, about the same sort of pace we're used to seeing from Frost, Soroviak and Sparks, but of course these three are now starting to battle against one another. That could draw them back into the likes of Mason Foster, maybe Harrison McKay, and bring them into the picture for this battle for victory. We've got 2 laps to go, anything's possible.
Yeah, just going back to what you were saying then about the what you was going on about, Tom, about the difference in lines. They seem to be making it work, and they're all taking these different lines, but the lap times aren't horrendous, and they're all still holding position.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We just saw Samuel Munson, the Munson burner, who is sadly out of this race with another technical problem there. So the rider from Swindon in Wiltshire goes no further in this race. Across the timeline we go though. Let's see what Ethan Sparks can do. The championship leader has a look to the inside down at Old Hall, but can't quite make anything stick through there.
Mason Foster's just gone over the line, 4th place, 49.0 flat. He's 8 tenths quicker than the leaders.
That's a phenomenal advantage that he had in terms of lap time there. Ryan Frost, it still wouldn't be enough for him, but if Foster comes into the picture, this might be a saving grace here for Ryan Frost and his championship challenge. They're side by side though, Frost and Soroviak coming in towards Island Bend. Soroviak's on the outside, Frost with the inside line. Frost will get it, but with Soroviak going to be able to retaliate and hold the momentum around the outside, maybe dive to the inside at Shell Oils. Has a look, but Frost has got it covered there for now. But look at this, Foster now right in the picture. As you say, they've been duffing one another up over the last couple of laps here or so, and it's brought him right into play for a battle for the podium. And he doesn't have any stake in this. He's got no game in it at all, so he can just throw caution to the wind.
Yeah, he just wants podium. He wants to spray the champagne, mate. He's not bothered about championships or upsetting anyone. And when you're in this position and you're catching that group in front, you can visibly see it, and it makes you excited, and you want to go forward.
Soroviak to the inside of Frost down at his ease, gets the move made. Just a bit of clarification on the Munson burner. Samuel Munson, by the way, had a wet front tyre on that bike, so they just changed it over to a dry front. So a gamble despite the fact that we've got a completely dry circuit now then here, has not paid off for Samuel Munson. Meanwhile, back to the battle for the lead, into Druids then, to the inside goes Frosty. Can he make it stick? Can he hold the line? He can. That's lovely. Starting to get quite aggressive now at the sharp end of this one. 2 laps to go as we go 3 abreast down in towards Lodge Corner. Who's going to be last of the late breakers? Frost holds it firm. Look at Foster round the outside. Surely not. Oh, contact there with Ethan Sparks through the final turn. Sits up Sparky, and Mason Foster just about manages to keep it on the straight and narrow there as well. Goodness me, that kicked off quite quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, I like it though, the aggression there, that's brilliant. He's gone around the outside here. Look, we're going to see him on the outside. He's going to close that gap, look. And obviously we've got Ethan Sparks to the inside, and Ethan Sparks didn't want to give it up, but sometimes the rear wheel versus the front wheel is not something, you don't want to go to war with that one.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It wouldn't have worked out at all. And now Ethan Sparks has got to get his rhythm sort of back into play, as it were, here as we see Serowiak again looking to the inside, coming in towards Island Bend, but carries a lot more momentum with that wider sweeping line. But Ryan Frost has got it covered here for the time being. On to the brakes we go. Sparks back up the inside of Foster for 3rd place there as well. Gets it done. It's bringing Mackay and Dunnerby into this as well, isn't it, here? You know, look at them. They're not too far away from this. So it's gone from what was a 3-way fight now up to possibly 5 riders being involved in the battle for victory coming onto the final lap. And,
yeah,
you know, a lot of those don't have a stake in the championship.
6 abreast at Lodge, I can feel it. It's happening. It's going to happen.
Yeah, close your eyes and hope for the best into there as Serowiak looks to the inside. Oh, he's laying the brakes at the curb. Can he get it stopped? Just about. But what's the momentum going to be like? The run out of the corner. Sparks goes through and into 2nd place there. That's the warning sign for Serowiak, isn't it, that we've been talking about all season? Talk us through, Danny.
Yeah, look, he's come down, he's up the inside. Obviously, he's just outbroke himself. Just hit the bump and maybe let the brakes off a little bit there. Turn tighter, yeah, just...
Yeah, he's gone over the sort of curve on the inside, hopped his way through, and then obviously that compromised his run. Look at the sun now beginning to set as we come down in towards the final corner. Who's leading? Let's wait and see through the haze. Well, it's Ethan Sparks. Big wobble there for Ryan Frost out the final corner. 1 more lap to go then here at Oulton Park in the R&G British Talent Cup. It's Ethan Sparks that leads. 2nd place at the moment is Ryan Frost. 3rd is Philip Serowiak. Mason Foster, who's also chasing his 2nd podium of the season and his 1st victory in this championship, is sitting there in 4th place, ready to try and take profit. Down into the Cascades, it's Sparks who holds the lead for now.
Yeah, last lap, this is going to be, you know, there's a lot of overtaking opportunities into here. You got down into the chicane, which we saw Serowiak earlier, really late on the brakes. This
is where Serowiak's been strong, Danny, isn't it? Especially into Island Bend and into Shellows. Yeah, look at that momentum around the outside there for Frost. Is he going to dive to the inside of Sparks? Yes. Look at that on the inside, gets it done. The move's there, the room's there, the position's there, and now the lead of the race is there for Ryan Frost as they head in towards Britain's. That's a lovely overtake there. What about Mason Foster? You just get the sense he's timing something here, don't you?
Watch Ethan Sparks out of here. He's going to try and get a good run up beside Ryan Frost and try and park himself up the inside into this chicane, but it's not an easy pass to make, as we just saw.
Yeah, Sparks is going to have a look to the inside, down towards Hizzies. We've seen a few moves being made into there. Can't quite make anything stick. Serowiak to the inside of his teammate. No, door gets shut very firmly indeed. Through it towards Knickerbrook. Look at Mason Foster. He's now up into 3rd place as well. Where did he come from? That was phenomenal from Mason Foster. Sparks though versus Frost as we come over the crest of the hill and in towards Druid. Side by side we go. Sparks now is back in front with 1 corner remaining. Serowiak through on Mason Foster for 3rd place there as well. Can he hold the line? That might have cost him a chance of victory here, getting involved in that battle for 3rd place. Down in towards Lodge Corner we go. Is Frost there ready for the move? No, he's not, but Foster is in the background on Serowiak for 3rd place, and he gets it done. Out of the final corner we go, and Ethan Sparks will take victory in race 2 of the R&G British Talent Cup. 2nd place for Ryan Frost, 3rd for Mason Foster, who gets his 2nd podium of the season, ahead of Philip Serowiak, Harrison Mackay and Jack Dunnerby. What a phenomenal end to the race we were treated to there.
Yeah, what a ride by, obviously, Ethan Sparks, amazing. Again, Ryan Frost, perfect ride there in 2nd place. But Mason Foster, that last lap, he really wanted that podium. He was there was no way he was not having that podium, and yeah, great show of aggression there, and a little bit gutted for Philip Serowiak because he rode a mega race, but yeah, hats off to Mason Foster and the other top two.
Ethan Sparks then takes his 6th victory of the season. Phenomenal ride from the Kavara Projects RS Racing Honda rider. And I believe that will also now eliminate Ryan Frost from the championship, because going into this one, Frost needed to outscore Sparks by 11 and Soroviak by 5 points respectively. Of course, Sparks won the race. Frost here finished in second place. So a valiant effort all season long from the Fibertech Honda rider, but sadly it's not going to be the top step of the crown for him in 2025. But nonetheless, that was a very strong effort after a day that didn't start in the best of circumstances. Qualifying took place in the torridly wet conditions earlier on this morning. He had a crash in there, put him back on the grid for that first race, and unfortunately just didn't have the same pace as some of his other riders in the first one, which again left him with a bit of an uphill task, and sadly for him it now eliminates him from the championship battle, which means that it will become a two-way fight between Ethan Sparks and Filip Soroviak for the title. Meanwhile, Mason Foster, he'll be absolutely delighted with that third place finish. Let's have a look though at where it all began to kick off. So this is Ethan Sparks looking to the inside of Ryan Frost, who was all out of shape coming down towards his ease. Soroviak had a look, and ultimately that was what cost him it. Cost him momentum. It opened the door for Foster, who walked gladly through it into Knickerbrook, and it left the top two to start tussling it out amongst one another. The upshot is though that for the number 62 of Ethan Sparks, he had great momentum going through and into Druids, and that was just enough for him to hold off the challenge of Ryan Frost into the final corner as they came to the checkered flag. Sparks there taking his 6th victory of the season. Ryan Frost in second. Mason Foster completing the podium in 3rd position. Ryan Saxelby and the team will be absolutely delighted with that. Both of their boys in with a shout of the title, here to be decided tomorrow at Oulton Park for the 3rd and final race of the weekend, and also the last race of the season for the R&G British Talent Cup. Ethan Sparks though makes his way back into Parc Ferme. What a mature, commanding and controlled ride from the lad from Maidstone in Kent. His debut season in the R&G British Talent Cup, and I'm sure a rider that will go on to do great things in the future, because this season, if it's anything to go by, has been a very sure sign that he is destined for greatness in the years to come. Ryan Frost in second and Mason Foster in third. Let's get confirmation of the results from race 2 of the R&G British Talent Cup. Ethan Sparks, victory number 6 of 2025 ahead of Ryan Frost and Mason Foster. Soroviak, McKay and Dunnerby also involved in that lead group battle right up to the checkered flag ahead of Ben Jalif, who gets his best finish of the season. He was in front of Scott McPhee, Jack Burrows and George Bowes, who complete the top 10. Further outside of it, Josh Raymond Jr. was ahead of Alexander Rowan, and Clayton Edmonds recovered from the back of the grid to finish in 13th, ahead of Peter Willis and Dan Goodman, who complete the points finishers. And the championship standings then, well, it goes from a 3-way race down to a 2-way tussle. Ethan Sparks versus Filip Soroviak. Sparks with now an 18-point advantage with 25 left on the table here tomorrow for the 3rd and final race of the season. Ryan Frost, despite his valiant efforts this weekend, means that he is now eliminated from that title fight, sadly, in 3rd position. Further down the order, still some great battles going on up and down the field, and they will come to their conclusion here tomorrow.
Ethan Sparks, what a performance. You're back here again. Looked like you timed that to absolute perfection. Been a difficult day, hasn't it, weather-wise, but your race looked nice and dry. You got the job done once again.
Yeah, it was good to get a dry race in. Obviously, we've had a lot of wet this weekend. It was definitely a really enjoyable race. It was really difficult. Lots of passes being made and definitely some close calls, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a lot like being in Spain with a little bit of contact and some good moves being done, but no, it was really good. I enjoyed it.
One more race tomorrow. How are you feeling for that one?
I'm feeling really good. I've got the momentum now. I just need to try and stay on the bike and obviously do the best I can to try and get the championship.
We wish you the best of luck with that, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Ethan Sparks, victory number 6 of 2025, and now an 18-point lead in the championship with 25 on the table. And one race remaining here this weekend at Oulton Park. What a phenomenal, commanding and controlled and mature ride. We've said that so many times this season, but he consistently delivers when the pressure is on his shoulders. Mason Foster as well, great job from the number 88, the lad from Norfolk. His 2nd podium finish of the season. And a 3rd place for him here at Oulton Park will be something for him to smile about. Ryan Frost, well, he'll know the championship challenge has come to an end for him, but he can hold his head high after what was a stonking ride to second position. But Ethan Sparks then, the momentum very much in his corner as he makes his way on to the top step of the podium here in Cheshire. To the plaudits of the crowd who've stuck it out through thick and thin, and about 7 or 8 different weather changes here today as well. Time for the podium trophies to be presented to the top 3 finishers then. First of all, of course, to Mason Foster for the Mortimer Racing team. Fibertech Honda with some more silverware to add to their trophy cabinet, and Ethan Sparks will probably need to get down to IKEA after this weekend, because the way he's going, they're going to need to probably build an extension on the end of the garage, given the amount of silverware that he's been taking home this season. One more race to go then, a championship to be decided here at Oulton Park with the R&G British Talent Cup. Highlights from the second race of the R&G British Talent Cup saw Jack Dunnerby on pole position. Saroviak versus Sparks down towards the first corner was in Sparks' favour as he got the initial advantage into second, but Saroviak wasn't taking it lying down. He tried to fight through and into P2, ran a little bit deep on a couple of occasions and ultimately cost himself a bit of time. As the sun began to set, we were peering through to try and see who was battling for these positions, and it was a 3-way fight that then became a 5- and 6-way fight, with Mason Foster getting his elbows out on Saroviak in the final lap. It was Sparks though versus Frost for the race victory. Sparks getting the better of Frost as they headed in towards Druids. He wasn't to be bothered with again, as then Foster went through on Saroviak for third position at the final corner. Sparks taking the victory, his 6th of the season, an 18-point advantage into the championship. It's him and Saroviak for the title.